Hey guys, what is up? My name is PandaMaster, and welcome to my spoiler-free review of Stowaway. This is a brand new movie that came out literally today on Netflix, and so it's completely free to watch with your subscription. It stars Anna Kendrick, Daniel Day Kim, Shamir Anderson, and Toni Collette. Yeah, so let's talk about this. First off, I'm back now. Hopefully, this is something that continues. Yeah, just very, very busy right now, but I'm trying to, ease back into things. And so, let's talk about this. 100% if you are a fan of science fiction thrillers like Gravity, I think this will be a film that you would enjoy. I mean, I try in my reviews to incorporate, there's my PS5, to try to incorporate just sort of like cost efficiency, and if a movie is on PVOD versus something like Netflix, obviously I'm going to more easily recommend something on Netflix because it's less of a cost to get in. It's lower cost of admission, I guess I should say, right? And so something like this, this movie I would give, if I had to rate out of 10, like a 7 out of 10. But I would also recommend you watch it if you're a fan of some of movies like this. Whereas, if something is on PVOD, it is harder to recommend at a 7 out of 10 versus, something higher. And so, overall, I think this movie is good. It has some really great moments to it. I think the thing that makes this movie special is its amount of realism. I think, at least based off of what I've seen in the movie, that it's directed by Joe Penna, who is a Brazilian filmmaker. I'm not sure, hasn't really done a ton of things. He came out with Arctic, which was a 2018 film that starred Mads Mikkelsen, and it earned very, very good reviews. So this is now his second full film, and I think there's a lot of dedication to making this film realistic, in that everything that happens here is something that could very well happen on a real mission. And I think that was what the crew really tried to accomplish here. And so essentially what this is about is a small 3-person crew is heading to Mars for a scientific mission, and then they find an accidental stowaway shortly after takeoff. And so really just dealing with the hardware malfunctions that come with something like that. But also, if you know anything about space missions, it's essentially everything is calculated down to the T, because you're leaving Earth. Like, this mission is a 2-year mission, right? And so anything to throw something off, they obviously have precautionary measures for this, but something so drastic as an entire human being being put on, and all of the oxygen that uses and resources and things like that, it's a huge wrench. And so essentially this movie is them trying to figure out how to get the 4 of them to survive, because where they're at now, they are on a craft that supports 3 people, no more, and now they have a 4th person. And so just trying to figure that out. And so I think this is a very realistic film, and I think that honestly is its downfall, just because there are some things where there are very dramatic scenes, and I don't think that I think that's accomplished what they're trying to do tonally throughout the movie. But there are things where it's like, ooh, it looks like they might mess up here. However, if they were to mess up at that certain point, I think the crew understood that it would make survival completely impossible. And so I think it was a difficult thing in terms of screenplay to add drama, add stakes, without making it impossible to accomplish in real life. So I think it is that commitment to realism that does almost bring down the quality of the film in a sense. because it does make it fairly predictable in terms of what to do. I mean, if you have common sense, and this movie does a really good job at um, not requiring you to be an expert on space travel to know options and what's going on and what the team needs to do to survive. It does a really great job of, educating without, again, necessarily making you some expert in, like, at NASA or anything. But, I think it does a really good job of that. In terms of tone, it's kind of hard to nail it sometimes. Like, again, this is classified as a science fiction thriller film. But with that, it almost is like a black comedy at times, because there's some really human moments, and I think that again speaks to the amount of realism that the crew attempted to inject into this film. And so it's definitely very interesting. For one, Anna Kendrick absolutely steals the show as Zoe. So you have her as, the medic on board, Toni Collette as Marina Bennett, who is the ship commander, and then David Kim, played by Daniel Day Kim, or David, yeah, sorry, I'm all over the place. You have David Kim, played by Daniel Day Kim, who is the ship's biologist. But then you also have Shamir Anderson as Michael Adams, who is the stowaway and launch plan engineer for the ship they are flying, right? And it's definitely a claustrophobic film, not to the extent that Gravity was, which I feel like is the movie to compare this to in terms of, subject matter and thematic similarities. So the cast I named, that is literally everyone. I'm trying to remember if there's any. I mean, they do have someone voicing Jim, who is the primary contact back on Earth, but I don't know if we hear any lines from him. It's mostly just indistinct murmurings. So really it is just these four people as the cast, like not even the primary cast, but just that is it. And I appreciate films that do that, because it means you have to add a lot of depth to the characters. And I think they did a pretty good job of that, but it's nothing necessarily groundbreaking. It's a very interesting film, and I do think it has originality to it, but in terms of what it offers to the genre, there isn't necessarily anything particularly new. So again, because this is on Netflix, because there's very little, price of admission in terms of just if you have a subscription, you're good to go. It's also on Prime Video if you are in Canada, since, once you get to international stuff, it gets a little murky on where it's available. But I do think it is an enjoyable film to watch if you are a fan of the genre. If you're not a fan of, the sort of slow-paced, very, I guess, dialogue-rich sort of films, I don't know if I would necessarily recommend this. Again, I think it's good. I don't think there's any huge blaring problems with it. I was entertained the entire time. Nothing in this movie really made me go, this isn't great. It's just, it was an enjoyable time. And I really just enjoy what Netflix is doing for the industry. Really just, I think it is doing a great balance at bringing these AAA, movie theater quality films to the forefront, but also, like, I wouldn't classify this as an indie film, but I also think it would have gotten much less exposure had it not been on Netflix. So I appreciate what Netflix is doing in terms of bringing these, I guess, like, B-tier films to the spotlight, and especially in a time where movies are really hard to put in the spotlight because of this pandemic, and movie theaters being like closing down and just not being as great of an option. So I appreciate what they've been doing there, and I think this is a good time. So pop a bag of popcorn, sit down with a buddy. Again, if you guys are fans of this, I think you'll enjoy it. I don't think it does anything really all that poorly. It just, isn't necessarily bringing anything particularly new to the genre. So let me know if you guys agree, if you've seen the film. Again, recommend it if you're a fan Otherwise, maybe find something else. But I think it's good. But like this video, subscribe if you want to see more. Hopefully I'll be back to some, regular content coming real soon. But I'll see you guys next time for whatever it is I'm doing. Alright, see ya.